Roderago Aldenberg here. I've decided to commit to this story stone a bit of the story that most mystics start with, which is learning the introduction to the advanced paths of mysticism and some of what the second tier mystic skills are. I'm not going to go into depth on any of the paths in this discussion, um, simply because I think each of those is better served uh, by their own discussion when one is specifically interested in pursuing them. But I will give a brief introduction to each of them. The 6 advanced paths are Ascetic, Mystic Warrior, Emissary of Umbra, Emissary of Vigor, Medium, and Necromancer. It is impossible to learn all of these paths. Multiple of them are mutually exclusive, and I tend to think of your choices in which advanced path you take as having 3 places where the path branches, and you have to pick one of the 2. The first place that you make this decision is, how do you use your talisman in combat? For the Mystic Warrior, they take their talisman and they turn it into their weapon or their shield. It does mean that they lose the ability to turn undead, but in exchange for that, they learn other skills that are well suited towards someone who is martial enough that they'd wish their talisman to be their weapon or their shield. And this includes the ability to channel spells while holding it and through them, and includes efficiencies in spellcasting and a number of other appropriate abilities for one who wished to be a mystic warrior. Sort of the inverse of the mystic warrior is the ascetic. The ascetic chooses to take oaths that prevent them from using weapons and weapon skills, and in exchange for those oaths, learn lesser ability or learn abilities that augment the potency of their talisman in certain ways. Once they have taken the full set of 4 oaths, they then start learning greater abilities that cannot be used very often, but tend to be very potent in what they do. In some ways, much of the ascetic path is about understanding what your story is in the combat and when your moments are, because unlike the mystic warrior who can fight all of the time, the ascetic has to choose their moments. The next place where you choose how you're going to interact is with the graveyard. The paths tied to the graveyard are the medium and the necromancer. I'm not going to talk too much about necromancer. If you think you're interested in necromancy, you probably know why. I would encourage you to find a teacher possibly tied with the Valier University to discuss necromancy if that is something that interests you, as I think they will give you a good perspective that is not overly biased. The flip side of the necromancer is the medium. While many mystics, go to the graveyard to remember those who have passed, the medium deepens their ties with the dead. They learn the ability to build a network of dead friends, as we kind of jokingly call them, to help them find out information. They can learn rituals that let them call a spirit out to speak with people again, or even learn rituals to borrow skills from someone who is dead for their own use. Mediums often end up tending graveyards because it is a place of power for them, and it is an interesting path to pursue. The third place where Mystic makes a decision is, how do they interact with the gatekeepers? They can choose to interact with the gatekeepers much like any other mortal, admittedly with the ability to give spirit shards So the gatekeepers may see your impact a little bit more, or you can choose to become a servant of either the gatekeeper of Umbra or the gatekeeper of Vigor. That path is the path of the emissary. The tasks expected of one working for the gatekeepers vary dramatically between the two gatekeepers, and if you think you may be interested in acting as an emissary for a gatekeeper, I would encourage you to talk to people about the natures of the gatekeepers and the things that they seem to care about. And then if you are still interested, or when you're still interested, you should find another emissary to carry your interest into the gatekeeper. And so those are the 6 paths. It's at most a mystic could pursue 3 of them. In reality, most focus on 1, maybe 2. I myself am both an ascetic and a medium, and have no intention of becoming an emissary. I'd also promised to talk about some of the second-tier mystic skills. There are a number of mystic skills that exist outside of the paths that a mystic of any path can learn. These include the ability to spirit strike, which is like a spirit dart but much more potent. The ability to silence, much like the Weaver skill. The ability to stall Eidolon, which is the ability to either stop an Eidolon who is walking towards the gatekeeper and hold it for a minute, or to prevent that a body on the ground from going into Eidolon form. Once one learns how to stall Eidolon, one can learn to spirit shard Eidolon, which lets you catch an Eidolon and grant it a spirit shard, even if no one was able to get to the body. And then the last of the commonly known second-tier mystic skills is called Spirit Shield. It allows you to basically resist more magic, expend your self shard to resist something a spell shield would let you resist. And you clearly can have both a spell shield and a self shard up. So it gives you some extra resiliency versus magic. And those are the 6 advanced paths and I guess 6 second-tier mystic skills. If you have any questions, I would encourage you to find a local senior mystic. If I'm around, I will happily answer questions, and if I've passed into Umbra, just speak with me, and I'll be happy to share my knowledge. Once again, this was Roderago Aldenberg Wrightwood, and I hope you all live a long life with an interesting story.